welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be cooking lamb stew. So for this one we need 2 medium onions diced up, and they don't need to be really small, whatever size, it's perfectly fine. I'm going to throw them into whatever type of pot you are using. I'm using the camp oven here with a bit of oil. I've used olive oil and just going to fry them off. And then we're going to add in between 1 and 2 teaspoons of garlic, however much you want to put in. If you like it more garlicky, then just add in some extra garlic. Once that's fried off a bit, we're going to add in 1 heaped teaspoon of paprika and turmeric, both ground. If you want to add a little more in or add a little bit less, go for it. This is just what I'm adding in for flavor. So we're going to cook these spices off until they smell absolutely awesome and you can smell them. Then to that we are going to add between 800 grams to a kilo of diced lamb, or whatever type of meat you choose to use today. We're going to just stir all that together and brown off the meat and just let it cook a little bit before we start adding the rest of our ingredients into it, and just making sure that all those spices and things are really all over the meat. Then I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of plain flour or all-purpose flour. This is going to help thicken up the gravy that we're going to make as we go through the rest of the recipe for this one. Just don't forget to keep an eye on your temperature. We want it a warm, medium to medium temperature. I'm going to add in a couple of teaspoons of chicken stock. If you've got lamb stock or beef stock or veggie stock, go for it. Doesn't matter which stock, it's just going to add some flavor. I'm going to add the water to make up the stock, just to make a little bit of a gravy. And we're just going to add in however much water you think is required for what you've got in your pot. So once that is done, we are then going to go ahead and chuck in our vegetables. So these are diced, dehydrated carrots. Quantity of about a cup or 2 handfuls as I work on. And after you've added each one in, give it a good mix. This is dehydrated zucchini I'm adding here. So after each addition, give it a good mix. See if you think that it looks like there's enough in there. If not, go ahead and throw a little bit more into the pot. As you see, I've just put a bit more in there. And don't forget to give it a really good stir between each one, keeping an eye on the fluid amount, because as these vegetables take up the fluid, you'll need to keep adding more water every so often. My favorite vegetable is the dehydrated shredded potato. This is so awesome to have, shredded potato. It just bulks up your meals so well, and being able to just add that in there is great. You can also do it in a diced or a sliced form as well, but I have shredded, so that is what I'm using here today. And just remember, keep stirring it and adding more water in as the dehydrated vegetables take up the moisture. So the other things that I'm going to add to this recipe here is about a cup's worth of diced tomato. These are tomatoes out of my garden, like all the other vegetables that I'm using today are out of my garden, and I will link that channel at the end of the video and in the description, so you guys can go and check that one out as well. So just dice them up. They don't need to be really big or really small. Add them to your pot, give them a stir around again. The most important bit now, guys, is to taste test. Always taste testing your food and adding more water as the vegetables soak them up again there. Taste testing is the way that you can decide whether you need to add something extra, even if you are following a specific recipe. I decided that this needed some tomato paste, some salt, some bay leaves, and Italian herbs. When you taste it, you decide what flavors you want to add into it, but they were the flavors I added. Oh, and don't forget the famous barbecue sauce that I like to use as well. It adds a nice, sweet, spicy flavor to it. And again, once you've adjusted your flavorings, make sure you give it another good taste test. Again, it is very important that you are tasting so that you know which end result is. And Mr. 16 is going to give me the stamp of approval to make sure it is actually not missing any more important ingredients. And then it's just going to sit on the stove and cook away whilst we make the cheesy garlic buns to go with it. The other thing I'm going to be serving with this today is some rice, and I have that on in the rice cooker. I burn it in a pot, so I generally just use a rice cooker. Now guys, these are some old buns from a couple of days ago. I think we had hamburgers or something like that with them, so they're a little bit on the dry side. I always have some garlic butter around. Garlic butter is really easy to make yourself. You just get your butter, soften it up, add in as much garlic to it as you want till you're happy with it. Just mix it all up, and you can add some dried herbs to it as well if you want, and it is super simple. Once you've made it and you've got extra, you can put it in the freezer, and it will freeze really well for 6 to 12 months until you need it again. So here I'm just putting on, I used probably about 300-400 grams of butter between these 8 halves of buns here. The more garlic butter the better. It just tastes so much better when you have more on each of the buns. So don't be shy and put it on. And this is where you can also add some fresh herbs like parsley or thyme or anything like that. Just chop it up and sprinkle it over the top of your buns. I had to defrost my butter. It was a bit hard still, so I'm just tipping all the last little bits of melted butter on. Don't waste it. It is still perfectly usable. It is just going to melt more in the oven. So this will go in the oven till golden brown for about 175 to 200 degrees depending on your oven. The other option you can do with these buns is add cheese, whatever type of cheese you want to add. I'm just putting a tasty cheddar cheese on here. I'm not doing all of them because some people don't want cheese, so I will do some with cheese and some without cheese, and then they are going straight into the oven and they will come out beautifully to serve with this meal. Again, I am now doing a test, checking on making sure that there's enough liquid in the pot here, and I'm also removing the bay leaves out of here as well. So now that that is all ready, I'm going to serve this up onto some plates for my crew to eat and enjoy. This is the rice, beautiful white fluffy rice. You can serve it with brown rice if you choose to, or you can do it with potatoes, or you can serve it just with the buns without the rice if you want. And it was just the most beautiful lamb stew that I've made in a while, and that is why I wanted to share it with you guys. So, and this is how it's going to look when I serve it, just with a nice piece of garlic bun on the side and served up like this. You can add some salad to it if you choose to. Okay guys, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me here in the kitchen again. Please don't forget to check out the videos on the side here, and hit the subscribe button up the top there, and we'll see you on the next vid. Happy cooking!